Welcome back, YouTubers, to another edition of Near Mint Condition, where we're shooting zombies in House of the Dead and House of the Dead 2.
Okay, we're not going to be talking about those shitty video games. We're going to be talking about good video games that scared the crap out of us, and also good comic books and manga that scared us.
Also, don't forget to check out our contest going on right now at the end of this video, but be sure you watch all this video first.
Of course, watch the entire video.
Please.
Welcome to Near Mint Condition, and before we get started, thank you, subscribers.
We really do appreciate you guys, all of you. And happy Halloween!
Woo! And as it is the season of the witches, we're going to talk about our favorite horror.
I don't think that's
not how it goes.
I'm pretty sure that was the title of Halloween 3, Season of the Motherfucking Witch. And it did not feature Michael Myers, but that's the next episode because we're not talking about movies right now. We're going to talk about comic books, which will also be manga, and video games.
Video games.
That shook us to the very core with fear.
With fear.
Right, Dan? Like, has anybody,
like Super Mario?
like besides your wife, made you feel like that? Like, holy shit, Lori's gonna be home and this is not watched.
Beyond Luigi's
Has
Haunted
anything
Mansion.
scared you, like when you're home alone playing by yourself?
I'm a big fan of the Castlevania series.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, Castlevania, I think, is a great example. You have to fight Dracula in.
Not only just Dracula, but all the Universal monsters. Like
Succubuses,
Werewolf, and
Medusa.
Mr. Mummy, and Frankenstein's monster.
But those aren't exactly scary games, right?
No, well,
you're just fighting monsters who are in many ways. There's kind of.
I don't know, playing Castlevania 2 alone in the middle of the night was kind of creepy.
Well, I will say, when I was a kid, like, the first time it turned night, and I was at night playing it, I was like, ooh, it was a little creepy.
It's a little creepy, but what I'm curious about is, you guys are talking about, like, scary games. Mm-hmm. I'm curious as to what is a scary game, and what makes it, like, actually scary.
Okay, Resident Evil for the PlayStation 1. Why did this game scare me? Like, the game itself has lots of there's two types of scares. There's like psychological scare
And then jump scare.
and then jump scare, right? So the first time I played Resident Evil on the PlayStation back in the 90s or whatever, and worked at Babbage's, America's Computer Software headquarters, you're walking down a hallway and, like, the tank controls are kind of weird, and all of a sudden this dog jumps out and you're like, and it scares the crap out of you, right? It's like, okay, this game is going to be a bunch of things like that.
Okay, but I've had the same experience playing, like, Halo, when the flood jumps out for the first time.
Very similar, yeah.
Well, true, yes.
So what makes that different?
What makes it horror is in, like, the setup of the first Resident Evil is actually legitimately kind of brilliant. It's based on an old Capcom NES game, or ish. You're in an old creepy house, and there's people that are missing, and there's zombies running around, but you don't initially get, like, you don't see zombies. Like, the first time you see a zombie, like, the game, like, you're walking down this hallway, and you hear, like, this crunching, creepy sound, and then it cuts, and again, this is PlayStation 1 era, so this is one of the first times you get to see, like, video, like, a zombie's head turns real slow, and you're like, okay, this is creepy, because again, we're coming from, like, full motion video.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the first era where things were legitimately kind of frightening. Like, I have Castlevania 4, it's gone! Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo, and that was, like, the Super Nintendo had great, fantastic graphics, so you could see, like, Medusa's boobs and Frankenstein, and, like, you could see those details. Frankenstein's boobs, but, like, the PlayStation is where you could really get, like, video to try and draw you into the environment. And there's all kinds of incidences of Resident Evil.
The best one of those is Resident Evil 2, because it has that atmospheric setup where, wait, I'm thinking Silent Hill, excuse me. Silent Hill 2 is
yes,
one of the best.
Yes, that is the best Resident Evil game.
Oh my god. No. So, I think as far as overwhelming, like, atmospheric things, like, that's what gets me, is the atmosphere, and combined, like, with zombies and stuff like that. So with Silent Hill 2, it's all, like, foggy, you have that staticky radio, and that would flip me out when that static radio would go off, and you're sitting there and you're like, oh god, it's near, it's gonna get me.
Pyramid Head.
No, it's all about the butt creatures. The butt creatures? You know what I'm talking about. Because you're the first time you play, you're like, what the shit was that? Was that a butt on a butt?
It was a butt on a butt. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And that was freaky. Yeah, I agree. So, my choice, and I'll explain what made it a horror game, is what this thing did to perfection. This is Eternal Darkness. And Eternal Darkness was very much like Resident Evil, but the controls were better. This game is so underrated. The controls were perfect in this game. How hard is it to fucking like mimic the controls of this game for the rest of the Resident Evil series at the time?
They eventually fixed it with...
This was done by Silicon Knights, same guys that did the Metal Gear Twin Snakes.
That is a mind fuck right there.
So what this game does is you're pretty much a girl whose grandfather has died. You go and find out why he's been murdered. You find a book. The book takes you back in time. And when it takes you back in time, you're living through, like, I think 12 different characters. You're playing as them. And what the game does, and what Resident Evil does, and what separates them from Halo, is the music and then the settings. Like she was mentioning the fog, how creepy it was. And I mean, that really sets the mood. Everything is dark. Even if you turn your fucking TV all the way into bright mode, it doesn't really help that much. You're still going to get freaked out. Because you start hearing sounds, and the sounds play a lot of elements in Eternal Darkness. What Eternal Darkness introduced, though, was this thing called the sanity meter, where if you get seen by monsters, or if you get seen by creatures or something, your sanity meter goes up. Drops.
Down.
So you start losing your sanity, and what it starts doing is it starts fucking with you. If you feel like you're actually playing a game with glitches, like you start going through the floor, they start advertising in the middle of the game for their upcoming Eternal Darkness 2 game.
Which never occurred.
You know,
thanks, Dennis
it just
Dyack.
messes with you.
You think the system
in
turns
ways that I've never
itself
seen a video game mess with you. And this was one of the best experiences, I think, for a horror game.
The original Doom was like, there was a bunch of monsters, and it was scary because, like, you had imps trying to eat you, and there's a million of them you had to get through. Like, that was scary. Doom 3 went a different direction, and this is, again, more of a technical limitation because Doom 3 had really awesome graphics, but they couldn't put that many characters on the screen at a time. So Doom 3 was a lot of, okay, dark hall, big monster that appears in your face. So, the scary thing is they did some really creepy aspects. Another story where I was freaked out, and that's why I'm talking about Doom. I'm playing Doom 3. My PC's plugged into my TV. Of course, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Naturally. Yeah. And I thought my wife had gone to bed. So I'm playing this, and there's a scene where, like, again, awesome graphics. I'm playing a scene, and I'm in a hallway, and all of a sudden it stops, and this creepy thing happens, and there's blood footsteps that are walking all around in front of me, and I hear a baby crying. We don't have children at the time. I hear a baby crying. It's like, this is really messed up. My wife had snuck into the room and was hiding behind the couch. She goes, hey, what you doing? Again, like a cat on the ceiling. So Doom's atmosphere, like, really did legitimately creep me out. There is a series called 999, 9 doors, 9 people, 9 places, 9 things.
Yeah, it's got 3 games.
So there's 3 of them. There's 999, Virtue's Last Reward, and then the one that just came out recently, Zero Time Dilemma. And the deal with this game is there's 9 dudes, and they're stuck in a room. It's very Saw. Like, they're stuck in a room, and they have to try and figure out how to get out of this room, but they might have to kill each other, solve puzzles, things like that. And all 3 of these games, like, they're kind of connected as far as storyline is concerned. It's a very, like, it's a different type of, like, scare. Like, you're legitimately freaked out. Like, how am I going to get through this? Am I going to kill everybody? And let everyone live? Very cool series.
I'm going to talk about Enemy Zero. Enemy Zero was a game on the Sega Saturn that started on the PlayStation. It's kind of a sequel to D because it begins with Laura Lewis's story. I know her last name wasn't Lewis in D. But anyway, this game was really cool in the way that it was done. First of all, this came out before Metal Gear did. And it was a lot of, like, stealth. There was a lot of stealth in this because what you did is you hide from this monster that's in a spaceship with you. And do you remember the scene in Alien when Dallas is up there with the sonar kind of thing, and they're like, okay, there's an alien coming, and it's getting closer to red bleep. That's what you kind of have here. It's like a sonar detector. It tells you where these things are, and that's what you hear in your earring. You have like an adapter, and it's attached to your heart. So the entire time you're hiding from this thing, and it's really freaky in the way that it's done. But yeah, I was a big fan of that. That's another game that I wish they would redo. And did you know that this game is also had it's probably the most expensive limited edition ever released. So in Japan, they released 20 copies of this game.
What?
Limited edition by the hand creator, the guy that created this game, Kenji, I cannot recall his last name.
Kenji Ino. I met that guy, and we smoked reefer together. Okay, we didn't smoke reefer together, but he was a really nice guy, and he passed pass.
Well,
very
he hand delivered this to your house. Like, he came to your house with a big giant box, and it was like $2,000 when it came out in 1996. That's how much these 20 limited editions were.
Let's talk about silly, just monsters, right? Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins, those type of games. Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
I don't know.
Maximo.
When I was really, really little, Ghouls and Ghosts did freak me out,
Maximo, that's a good example. Yeah, so like the first one was...
Kind of successor to it.
Yeah, great game. Difficult game. Ghosts and Goblins came out on the NES, based on an arcade game, and I didn't play it for the longest time because like one of the monsters that you fight at the end is Satan. So I was like, I can't play this game. There's Satan in it. That's scary.
But that's
But
good.
you're
You
triumphing
defeat Satan.
over him.
Well, the game actually is devil incarnate because once you get through it, which is hard as balls, but once you
It
get
is one of the hardest Nintendo games.
You have to play it again.
you have to play it again.
Outlast. So basically, you're not fighting anything. And I think games that do this well, kind of like Myst or something, where it gets a creepy setup, but nothing really... I mean, with this one, you can get attacked, but... kind of sets up a whole theme of like you're running from things and you're trying sort of a survival.
You're trying to outlast. Mind blown.
It's really creepy. I remember playing that with
Outlast.
I remember playing that with my brothers, and we were all screaming because it's kind of fun to play in a group of people. And my brothers both scream like little girls, and I love to like
Egg them
make
on.
yeah,
Because you're a horrible brother.
because they're both like, you need to play this with us.
Get in
So,
that
yeah.
closet! Get in that closet!
So you hide in the closet.
You're the healer.
So what you do is you run around with a flashlight trying to get in this insane asylum, and you're trying to outlast all these fucking weirdos that I think are monsters, and they're looking for you, and yeah, they start opening like locker doors when you're trying to hide, and you're like, oh shit, please don't let them find me, please don't let them find me. So it feels like you're in a horror movie almost, as, like your stereotypical Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly. So this tells the story.
That's a mouthful.
This tells the story of how the camera obscura came to be. So pretty much, Fatal
yeah.
Frame
Yep.
is the story of these two twin girls that are in a Japanese forest in the middle of the night. They get lost, and
safe,
they
right?
follow. One of them is kind of stupid and follows a butterfly. Right? She's like, hey, butterfly, and her sister's like, no, don't go in there. Like all of a sudden, everything is dark, and they see this like deserted town. So they go to the town, of course, and that's where they find the camera. The camera, much like in the first game, lets you see the ghosts that are around. And they're not like
They don't look like
friendly
Kirby.
ghosts. Casper or Boo from Mario. I mean, these are fucking horrifying looking humanoid creatures.
And they're Japanese.
And-
So they're even creepier.
scarier.
If you haven't played The Last of Us on something, it's also out on PS4. Go buy a PS4 if you don't have one. Get a PS4 Pro or Slim. It's fantastic, and it creeped me the heck out. So this is, once again, it's one of those games, example number 3, where it's the middle of the night, and I'm playing this game, and a thing comes out at me, and I drop the PS4 controller, which is $55. Ah! Save, and I was done.
So speaking of video games, let's talk about comic books now.
Great. Sure.
Good call.
Absolutely.
And manga.
Yes.
Still
Yes.
comics.
Still comics.
So I think let's knock out the biggest thing first and talk about The Walking Dead. That's a book that, again, the horror elements, it's not
The zombies, it's more the people.
right, but it's also the fact that none of the characters are safe.
All the black people die.
Well, all people die except Rick, right? I mean, nobody's safe in that book, and that's just reading the first 30, 40, 50 issues was like you get attached to these characters and then just wonder, oh, they're dead. They're not dead in some special like, oh, they died saving people. Nope. Just that happened to be
manhole
their
cover.
time to be dead.
I think no, it's you're absolutely right. It was. I remember. I mean, the book is not one of my favorites, but I did like some of the aspects of it. Like Tyrese. Tyrese was one of my favorite characters. They totally butchered the TV version of him. But he was a football linebacker. He was a big guy, and he was best friends with Rick. And then
Spoilers.
out of nowhere,
Spoilers.
the governor comes in, and he's like, "Hey, I got your boy," and cuts his head off.
Yeah.
Like in a non-heroic way, right? This is a guy that took down like
Right.
a room full of zombies by himself and has been in the book for like 40 issues, and then gets hit. And that's how characters die in the book. You don't have a moment. You don't have that moment
don't
of
have
like
that glory
that
moment.
build up of like, oh man, he went in such a heroic way. No, they just die. Like
Yeah.
it's almost
And-
how real life, I guess. would
And
go.
so, I don't know if it's horror per se, but it's just unsettling.
you want to speculate?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I think Abraham and Glenn are dead. They're gonna kill 2 people. Actually, the biggest twist they could do is if Glenn takes the baseball bat from Negan and smashes Negan's skull.
No, the biggest twist they could do is kill Rick.
They will never. They can't even cut his hand off.
Kill Rick.
They can't. They don't even have.
That's how you really get all the comic fans.
Well, okay.
These are the granddaddies of the horror genre. This is the comic books that started the whole
HBO
comic.
special.
Well, not just that, but
and the
the
Comics
ethics
Code Authority. Yeah.
Without these books, I mean, Seduction of the Innocent, all those books would not have been written about how comic books are destroying our youth. People were burning these books. People were these comic books. I'm sorry, these are collections. So a little history about these. These are reprints of original EC comics. EC originally in 1944, Max Gaines created this company called Educational Comics. Mainly, they were about like science and history for like schools and churches. Sadly, he passed away in 1947 in a boating accident, and his son William came in and kind of did a rehaul of the whole company. These books are just some of the best stories, not just horror, but some of the best stories I've ever read. They were a lot of fun, and most of them are kind of repetitive. It's kind of like the whole, you do something bad, something horrible is going to happen to you.
Right.
Well, it's
So
the
pretty much,
telltale
like-
part of comic books.
Like, for example, this guy is a taxidermist, right? Can't stand his wife's cat, so he stuffs the cat, right? And what does she do? She stuffs him, and that's the ending. But, I mean, it's done a lot better than
So so if you have sex, then you're doomed in this.
most of the time, yes, of course. Which
with
you
any horror theme thing.
But anyway, these are the ones that kind of kicked it off. I mean, and sadly, they only lasted for about 4 years before people were like, no, these are destroying our children's brains. Kind of like in the way they blame video games and all that stuff.
I do like the idea that it's the comics destroying children's brains, not the whole idea of maybe I should look at what my children are reading.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right, absolutely.
My children are not playing Doom.
It's a different time.
So sadly, they kind of went under, and EC is now known for Mad Magazine. That's it.
Oh.
I mean, they're the ones that
Oh.
publish Mad Magazine.
I like to talk about something from Japan. So with manga, one of the biggest horror manga keys or just manga authors is Junji Ito. And if you've not, his actually borders on more of the gore-ish aspect of horror, which we haven't really talked about a lot of gore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of like a subgenre. I mean, there's the scary jump scares, the scary, atmosphere, sort of suspense, and then there's just gore. It does have that sort of psychological, but then there's also this sort of like element of the strange and weird. I think one of my favorite, and I believe it's his, I can't remember what anthology, this lady is very overweight, and she really wants to go on a date with this one guy. She really, really likes this one guy. And of course he's like, you're fatty, I'm not going to date you. And so what she does is she sits and stares at food, and she hungers and hungers and hungers, but she starts slimming down. And so finally the guy takes notice, and he's like, hey, you're a babe, come out on a date with me. And of course she does, and she eats his face. Because she's so hungry. I mean, that's like his sort of build-up. It's sort of like this strange, sort of like gory, sort of like horror theme.
I will say, you were talking about earlier, dropping things, like your video game controllers. So Junji Ito, the guy that wrote these, Uzumaki and Gyo and Museum of Terror and Fragments of Horror, it is the only time... So I'll talk about this in the next episode, but part of the reason why I'm not scared of things is because I grew up watching a lot of horror movies when I was like 4. So it takes a lot for me to get scared.
Your brain has been mushed. Yes, you're desensitized.
One of the things I like to do is actually try to scare myself when I'm alone. So I started reading some of these.
No, that's legit. Sure.
I think it was volume 2 or 3 of this one. And this is the one with that girl that she's always in each story.
Yeah.
So there was a picture in one of these books where they're taking like a scan of somebody's stomach, and there's a face. And I'm like, I remember I was reading it, and it just freaked me out so bad that I was like, you know what, fuck this. I threw the book, and I turned the lights on. I went upstairs, and I was alone, and I just started watching like Full House. Like, I did not touch that book for a while.
I want to kind of juxtapose Marvel Zombies and Blackest Night.
Oh, Mark, come on, Marvel Zombies. All it was like, Robert Kirkman, you write a zombie book. Can you write us a book?
Yeah, no, I realize that. But at the same time,
I was entertained by Marvel Zombies. Thank you very much.
Sure, it's kind of funny, but it's like, but yeah, the first Marvel Zombies book is kind of funny.
Yeah.
The third Marvel Zombies book is kind of like,
by the time you get to like,
oh wait, we're gonna cross over with 616 now.
well, they crossed over with well, that's where it started in the Ultimate Universe with the
Okay.
Fantastic Four. Yeah, it was so bad. I think the best thing to come out of those was Zombie Deadpool, which I think they're still using the head.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, that's it.
But, then on the other hand, you've got Blackest Night, which is the, kind of the repercussions of all these dead superheroes coming back to life and confronting the people who were close to them. And, I mean... in
whorish, brutal ways. Like, they don't go out like, oh, I love you, Sue Dibney, like, elongated man, and then Hawkman. I mean, Hawkman and Hawkgirl got murdered, like destroyed.
Yeah.
It was kind of freaky to read those books. I mean, they were really well written.
Yeah.
It was years of build up to 2009 when it came out. You know, so the Anti-Monitor and like all these blackies, they held the part of the Green Lantern mythos. They had the ones with the black rings. So it was like death coming back to get all the living.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of an encapsulation of Marvel versus DC.
No, I think Marvel's answer to that was the Necrosha crossover with the New Mutants and the X-Men and X-Force at the time, where the Black Queen was Selene was gathering a force of resurrected X-Men villains like Pierce, Donald Pierce, and they were coming back to try to kill the X-Men. So it was like Caliban, all these characters came back, and they were trying to kill the living. So that was kind of their answer. Actually, I enjoyed both stories.
Yeah. This book,
the motherfucking scary stories to tell in the dark. Man, those pictures in that book as a kid.
I know, like
that book.
Look, see, like this is nightmare fuel when you're like
that's
6.
That's a normal picture. I'm talking. Look how bizarre some of the people that are normal supposed to look.
Song, like what's
going on? The Slithery D. I sing that to my girls. They get freaked out.
Excellent parenting, by the way.
I'm raising them to be prepared for supernatural things that are going to happen to them in case it happens to them. But yes, so I believe they're going to make a documentary or a movie about this book. It is a wonderful book.
Look at that.
That you should read.
Japanese, like
No, if you want your kids to be a little desensitized to the fakeness of horror movies and things like that, I think this is a really good place to start. Because the pictures in these...
Look at that, dude.
...are the stuff that nightmares are made of.
That is nightmare fuel right there, especially if you're a kid.
And that's a normal dude. Like, that's not even a creature in the book. Sadly, the guy that drew these passed away, but these are wonderful stories.
Oh, that the Thing picture is the one that got me when I was a kid.
Yeah, so that was a good book. Okay. And don't forget, some of the stuff that we talked about today, we're going to be giving away... on our contest that we have. That is linked. We will also link at the bottom of this video. So please follow the instructions. Dan, help me out. What the fuck was I supposed to say?
Subscribe.
So check out the video.
There you
See
go.
what you need to do to enter and win some of our loot.
Fabulous prizes.
All Halloween themed.
Thank you again for joining us. Those were some of our scariest video game experiences and scariest comic books that we read. Please don't forget to subscribe and like our video. Oh, and more importantly, don't forget to enter our contest, which we're giving away things like Resident Evil 4, the EC Comics collection, and some of Junto Ito's work. And to do that, there's a little link right here that can take you right to the contest.
So you had vampires, you had a werewolf, Talbane,
We just told these people is what made us scared. Morgan made me erect.
Yes, she did.